How scared were the Jews in World War II? In order to escape, they rushed to the power grid. The high-voltage power supply of 1000 volts instantly made the Jewish woman's limbs stiff. She hung on the wire net and lost her breath. Another Jewish woman saw her companion die. She was angry and scolded the German army. She cursed the soldiers that they were beasts. The soldiers ordered her to shut up, but the Jewish woman saw that the soldiers did not shoot. She continued to shout madly. This time, she completely enraged the soldiers. She rushed up and pushed him down. She raised the gun and shot the Jewish woman on the spot, and the Jews on the other side looked at her blindly. When the German soldiers walked away, 4 Jewish women carried the woman to the pit under the command of the supervisor. They quickly took off the clothes on their bodies. The next day, the German army caught another Jewish woman who ran away. The German army hung a sign on her chest. They beat her to death and sent her to the execution ground. Then they ordered all the Jews to gather in the square. Before executing the Jewish woman, the German officer gave a generous speech and warned everyone that this was the end of the escape. As a concentration camp dedicated to imprisoning Jewish women, they had to work for 10 hours a day to build railways for the German army to transport supplies. And once they lost their labor value, they would be killed by the German army on the spot. Because they could only eat a meal a day, the Jewish woman starved to death. As the number of people starved to death increased, the German army had to catch more Jews to build railways for the German army to transport supplies. As the number of people starved to death increased, there were German guards everywhere in the concentration camp. There were German guards everywhere in the concentration camp. The frightened woman accidentally broke into the barracks. She met a Jewish supervisor who was guarding the body. He took away the gold necklace on the woman's neck. Then he took her to a Jewish doctor. The doctor took off her clothes from the body and put it on the woman. Then he cut off the woman's hair, tattooed it on her arm, and took the place of the dead Jew. In order to avoid being sent directly to the gas chamber, the woman passed through the window and saw her parents being driven into the gas chamber by the German army. The Jewish woman lost control of her emotions for a moment, but in order to survive, she could only cry silently. The next day, the woman was pulled by the German army to build railways. In the heavy rain, the woman soon fainted because she was too cold and weak. She turned around and found a tea room next to her. There was still a lot of heat in the chimney. Before the German army noticed, the Jewish woman got up and walked into the tea room. She hugged the stove and enjoyed the warmth of the moment. She was soon found by the Jewish supervisor. The supervisor used a wooden stick to beat the girl madly, and the girl was fainting on the ground. Fortunately, she was not found by the German army. The Jewish woman fled for a while. When she woke up, she was sent back to the dormitory. But as soon as she returned to the dormitory, she stole her companion's potatoes. She couldn't take care of the hot potatoes, so she ate them. Her companion found that the potatoes were stolen and begged the woman to leave some for herself. The woman immediately shook her head to refuse and then swallowed the potatoes directly. She didn't care about her companion's life at all. However, the next day, the German army suddenly wanted to check her body. They picked out the old, weak and disabled people who had no value for labor and sent them all to the gas chamber. The Jewish women were frightened. They started to organize their clothes to make themselves look more energetic and to remove the bandages that covered the wounds. They used this to cover up the fact that they were injured. They even covered their white hair with charcoal to make themselves look younger. But the girl was not only injured all over, but her hands were also stained with blood and flesh because of the frostbite. In order to successfully pass the German inspection, she made a bold decision.